Hello, and welcome to another episode of Crossing Bridges Talk Show. I'm your host, Larry Montgomery Sr., and my co host, Will, Kimmy. They're out on holiday. Um, that always happens when you pay people too much. They get to want to take time off and spend the money. But anyway, we're here for our Christmas show. This week, we're going to talk about Kwanzaa. And I think it's important so we understand that as fathers, as men, as mothers, as children, to understand those things that have um, impacted our culture here in the U.S. and that should be understood, remembered, and hopefully repeated, practiced, or whatever. So we're going to talk about Kwanzaa.
Another day, another story. 7 Principles. The 7 Principles, or Nzo Saba, are a set of ideals created by Dr. Maulana Karenga. Each day of Kwanzaa emphasizes a different principle. Unity, umoja, umoja. To strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Self-determination, kujichagulia, kujichagulia. To define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. Collective work and responsibility, ujamaa, ujima. To build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and to solve them together. Cooperative economics, ujamaa, ujama. To build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses and to profit from them together. Purpose, Nia, Naya. To make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Creativity, Kumba. To always do as much as we can, in the way we can, to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. Faith, Imani. This principle focuses on honoring the best of our traditions, drawing upon the best in ourselves, and helping us strive for a higher level of life for humankind. Imani affirms our self-worth and confidence in our ability to succeed and triumph in righteous struggle. Thanks for watching.
And we'll probably throw in a few things about some of the other holidays and so on and so forth. Excuse me. But we won't be long. Okay. So let's get started here. What is Kwanzaa and why is it celebrated? Kwanzaa is an annual holiday celebrated primarily in the United States from December 26th to January 1st. It emphasizes the importance of the Pan-African family and corresponding social values. Kwanzaa peaked in popularity during the Afrocentric movement of the 1980s and the 1990s. Um, Personally, I was here in the 80s and the 90s, and fortunately, I was here in the 70s, 60s, and 50s. So I was privy to the coming of and understanding the reasons for um, such a bold move in those days, during those days and times. So let's go on. What religion is Kwanzaa? Kwanzaa is not a religious holiday, it's a cultural one. Because of this, people from all different religious backgrounds, including African spiritual traditions, celebrate the holiday. Now, I don't know much about how many or what the basis is of any African spiritual traditions. I think we should have a conversation on that so we don't lose touch as a community with those things And I do certainly understand that people may have various impressions of what African spiritual traditions may or may not be based on media here in the US. So we'll have that conversation in the not too far future. Um, is Kwanzaa only for Black people? Kwanzaa doesn't discriminate. Clearly, it's a holiday created for African Americans, but just like people other than Mexicans celebrate Cinco de Mayo, other races and ethnic groups are welcome to participate in the Kwanzaa rituals. Cinco de Mayo, as a side note, is Spanish for 5th of July. 5th of July, also called anniversary of the Battle of, let me spell it for you because I'm not too good at pronunciation here, Puebla. I'm not even going to try. It was a battle. And the holiday is celebrated in parts of Mexico and the United States in honor of a military victory. That battle was a victory, was won by the Mexican people in 1862, and it was a battle between them and the French forces of Napoleon III. Now, as a separate side note, what is Kwanzaa and why is it celebrated? The 8-day Jewish celebration known as Hanukkah commemorates the rededication during the 2nd century BC of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, where, according to legend, Jews had risen up against their Greek Syrian oppressors in revolt and won. I want to make note here that the two holidays that I mentioned, the Cinco de Mayo and Hanukkah, are the results of celebrating a successful outcome of a conflict. And we're going to talk about Christmas. But we may not do it in detail today, but we will talk about it because it's interesting to understand how it came about. Uh, a lot of people are moving from using the word Christmas and using the term Christ must. Uh, we'll talk about that. Not today, though. But my point here is with Cinco de Mayo and Hanukkah, these are celebrations of victory after a conflict. Most of the holidays that we celebrate here in the United States are the result of some military battle or some conflict um, that was of import. We can go down the list. Well, let's start with Washington President's Day, which is, uh, several presidents put together, whatever. But the purpose of Washington Day Washington Day is to celebrate the first president of the United States of America, which is not necessarily true. George Washington was not the first president of this country. Uh, this country was not always um, a consolidated union of states. It started out as a federation. And for about 5, 6 years, I believe it was, or whatever period it was, a short period of time, um, that's how we were governed here in the United States of America. The first president of that federation was a black man. So when it turned over from a federation to a Union, that's when we got elected President George Washington. So keep that in mind. Then we have other holidays. Lincoln's birthday we celebrate. He's well known, noted for uh, ending of slavery, which is not necessarily true because it was a political movement at that time. It was an opportunity that happened to be on the table at the time. A lot of states were talking about seceding from the Union because they felt that slavery was important to their economy and all the other things that went along with that. And because they weren't successful in the battle, the Civil War, that Lincoln had an opportunity because he has an edge at that time because they weren't successful in those battles. And so he took that opportunity. And then with taking that opportunity to um, eliminate slavery or whatever, he lost his life. And so he celebrated for that. So again, a battle. What else we have? We've got Independence Day, a battle. Um, 4th of July, a battle. Um, what else? Labor Day. Well, that was a conflict between wealthy businessmen and the labor force. Okay, modern day battle. All right, so we celebrate that. Um, then we've got what 9/11 battle. Veterans Day, celebrate the warriors. If there was no battles, there would be no warriors. They would just be guards. Battle. What else we got there? Thanksgiving. Um, the result of uh, uh, how do you call it? Being politically correct in how we talk about. Well, we appreciate the Indians because they were here first. We don't talk about that part. They were here first, and they helped us, white folk, to survive in this new land, the new world. And look what we did for them in the end. We've created reservations for them that they have. They had everything, but now they just have what we have determined reserved for them. Okay. So again, a battle. Then there's what Halloween? Oh, a battle between good and evil. Evil's losing, so let's just be nice to them for that day and fine. Okay. And then there's what Christmas, and we're going to talk about that um, celebration, the birth of Christ, which was really motivated by economics, even though it has a history, and we'll talk about that at another date. And then there's what New Year's, uh, when we celebrate starting that whole process and that whole thought process, starting it all over again. Anyway, so that's some background about holidays. What do now? There's 7 days in the celebration of Kwanzaa, and what do those days mean? What I'm going to do is I have a video. Let me share that with you first, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. Um, yeah, those are the 7 principles. And what we want to do is, one second here, I want to go on and talk about the 3 traditions of Kwanzaa. We'll come back to the principles in a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Let's talk about the principles. Let's talk about the principles because it's most appropriate to talk about them now. And I have some notes here. Unity, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race, our culture. We have, as a people living here in the diaspora, uh, have become confused with the importance of unity in our families, in our communities, in our nation, and in our race, uh, because of the various social distractions, um, the the media's constantly pounding, and we sitting and accepting or watching this and hearing these things about what's popular, what's acceptable, what um, in life. Quick examples: we talk about, we see in the media every day about couples who are, how do you say it, same-sex couples, which when I was coming up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was like taboo, you know. And I'm not going to get into a discussion about this, and I shouldn't be afraid to get into a discussion about it. Uh, God didn't create us to man to lay with man as he lay with woman, period. And we have people now who um, believe that that's acceptable behavior. It's a sin. It's an abomination. That's what it is. And I'm not interested in having a conversation with you about it because it's a sin, an abomination. So you can talk all you want, march up and down the streets all you want. It's still a sin and an abomination. But because of the media, it's become something that's supposed to be socially acceptable. You see it in commercials, you see it in advertisements. Everywhere you go, you're exposed to it. And if you continually be exposed to something, at some point you may accept it as being a reality. Wrong is wrong. I don't care how many times you say it, it's wrong. So I'm getting on my soapbox. But unity in our culture here in the United States is about us coming together and appreciating us, understanding us, and working together for a better future for our children. You see that happening in the Arab community. You see that in the Jewish community. You see it in the Spanish and Latino community. You see it in the Russian community. You see it in every other culture. They come to this country, they stick together, they work together, they build together. We as African Americans do not do that. And that's why we are in the situation that we are in. Yeah, there's a few out there that are making a few dollars. You look at Oprah, you look at Steve Harvey, you look at Michael Jordan, Shaq. These names come up. Those are a handful of people. When the wealth, power, and influence in this country is just magnified amongst the white community, you see, and I don't want to get off on, I'm going to stop right there. But unity is important. It's easy to beat down one, but you got a problem when you got two or three of them. You got to fight. Okay? Self-determination. Self-determination. We need to define ourselves, not let somebody else define us as to who or what we're good at. We need to create for ourselves, not sit around and try to do whatever is pleases somebody else. What pleases us, we need to create. We need to speak for ourselves. We don't need to sit around and let somebody else tell us what to say or convince us to say what pleases them. and we put Herschel Walker up there, and we put the Reverend up there, and we see a difference. Two black men, nationally known, nationally known. One speaking one voice, one speaking someone else's voice. Collective work and responsibility to build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and to solve them together. I can't tell you how it just breaks my heart to see when there's an illness in a household where you have to go to a doctor and you have to go maybe to a hospital. Name one black owned and operated hospital. Name one. But we represent 10% of the community. We don't have our own hospital. Let me go on. Cooperative economics to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses and to profit from them together. You go into any, and I'm not trying to be racist here, understood the facts is. You go into any 7-Eleven in New York, and there's a particular ethnic group that pretty much owns it. Okay, well, God bless them. They got, they do that. That works for them, and they hire their own people. God bless them. Just like in bodegas, you don't see any black people owning bodegas. You don't see any black people owning a Chinese restaurant, but we support them. But when a brother opens up a rib shack, oh, his prices are too high. They don't keep good hours. There's always a reason we come up with not to support them. Let's move on. Purpose. To make our collective vocation make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. And there's nothing wrong with any of these principles because everybody else is doing it. Everybody else is following those principles. We aren't. So we create a, 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 a holiday to remind us every year of these things and how important they are. Creativity, to always do as much as we can in the way we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. And when we talk about the ghetto was in black. Ghetto was about poor people in a depressed atmosphere. We talk about the hood, poor people in a depressed atmosphere. Doesn't mean that everybody is trying like in crabs in a barrel. Everybody's trying to get out, and the ones who do get out, they get out and they go. You get out and you go, and you succeed. Come back. This isn't like an option. Oh well, Joe did the right thing. He came back. No, it's an obligation. It's an obligation to come back and help your brothers get out of that situation. We don't have to live in a barrel. We don't have to live in projects. We can live in nice neighborhoods like everybody else, and they could be all black, and they could be maintained. We just have to make up our minds that that's what we're going to do, and we're not going to accept less. Oh, well, Joe is he's falling on hard times. His house is falling in disrepair. Well, get your behind up from behind the TV and go out there and mow his lawn. Help him. What's it going to do? Take a few minutes of your time? Anyway, I'm getting a little overexcited here. The last day, faith. The last principle, faith. This principle focuses on honoring the best of our traditions, the best of our traditions, drawing upon the best of ourselves, and helping us strive for a higher level of life for mankind. Imani affirms our self-worth and confidence in our ability to succeed. Faith affirms our self-worth and confidence in our ability to succeed and triumph in righteous struggles. Okay, now, again, I said I don't want to talk about Christmas because that's a whole different thing, a whole different level. But I want to make sure that I come away from the table that I'm at least starting a conversation, at least saying, look, hey, listen, I may have wrong facts. I have what I got, you know, and there's nothing wrong with us discussing it. Nothing wrong with us accepting, well, Larry, you talk about investing in black business, you talk about fathers taking responsibility for their children and all this stuff is good. And you talk about abominations and sin and all that kind of stuff. All this stuff is good. But let's sit down and talk about each one of these items one by one to get an understanding. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to accept everything that's being said, but we should have an understanding of what we're talking about and an understanding about why this one feels this way, this one feels that way. Same thing with politics here in Democrats and Republicans. Okay. I could not fathom when I in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s having a conversation with a woman and telling her what she should do with her body. I couldn't fathom that. I didn't create that body. I ain't got to manage that body. I ain't got to live in that body. That's your body. You do what you want to do, you know, for whatever reasons. If there's something that I could be doing to help you, then that's on me. But people standing there, this whole issue about abortion rights is really about population. In 20, 30 years, there will be more minorities in this country than there are white folks. And the best way to impact that shift is to focus in on birth. We need more children. More children. And since there are 80% more white children than there are minorities, what happens if we stop that 80%, which is about to happen, when they stop having babies? That 20% starts to grow. Okay. Yeah. Hey, it's a shift. And it's not a shift that was not already understood was coming. You see, it's been seen for years that this is coming, this shift in the population demographics. Some people stand there paying attention. This is what we got to do. Calculate whatever we got to do this in order to continue to control this society. And other people are standing around like, oh, what are they talking about, boss? What are they talking about, boss? Wake up, stay woke. There's a reason for having this conversation about abortion. And it ain't about religion. Okay? Anyway, I got off the track again. Let me get back here. Uh, listen, this we talked about Kwanzaa today. We will talk about Christmas another day. So we understand it. Christmas versus Christmas. Okay? Christ's birthday, celebrating it. We don't know exactly when he was born. Some say it was in the spring. Well, this ain't the spring. We're celebrating in the middle of the winter, at least here. Anyway, so I will see you again next time, God willing, and the creek don't rise.